10 more people in England have died after testing positive for the coronavirus, the largest total in a single day since the outbreak began. Could mass gatherings of more than 500 people be banned across the UK? New legislation is being considered.
The decision has been taken in some countries because of the impact on public services, and because when you have a mass gathering that draws on the police and the ambulance service who need to support it.
The government insists it's not a U-turn and that all decisions are based on the best possible medical advice. Also tonight, travel to America from the UK will be suspended after the White House extends its list of banned countries. Spain is put in partial lockdown. People can only leave their homes for work, to buy food, or in an emergency.
I also took the test last night.
And after contact with someone who tested positive for the virus, President Trump awaits his results. Good evening. 10 more people in England have died after testing positive for the coronavirus, the largest total in a single day since the outbreak began. In all, 21 people in the UK have now lost their lives, and the number of confirmed cases has risen to 1,140, though the true figure may be much higher. The Chief Medical Officer for England, Professor Chris Whitty, says the government's action plan aims to save lives and protect the most vulnerable. He also says every single person has a role to play in beating the virus. Here's our health correspondent, Sophie Hutchinson.
On your marks, get set, go!
A large group of runners out today keeping fit, but the question now is for how much longer? Concerns about the coronavirus mean the government may ban mass gatherings. It's understood the measure could be brought in as early as next week in order to free up emergency services to deal with the virus.
The evidence tells us that stopping mass gatherings doesn't have a huge impact on the spread of the virus. But, for example, the decision has been taken in some countries because of the impact on public services, and because when you have a mass gathering that draws on the police and the ambulance service who need to support it.
Today the death toll in the UK jumped, almost doubling from 11 to 21 people. Nearly all of those who lost their lives were in the at-risk groups, aged over 60 with underlying conditions, but it's emerged that one was not. There are now more than 1,100 confirmed cases in the UK. One of them is a newborn baby and its mother, but officials believe the true figure could be as many as 10,000. The World Health Organization has raised serious concerns about the UK's strategy to allow enough people to be infected with the virus who then recover in order to build up so-called herd immunity. Meanwhile, hundreds of scientists have written to the government urging them to introduce tougher measures to stop the virus spreading and warning of the risks of a lack of action, and other experts agree.
The UK government response has, in my view, placed the country at a considerably higher risk of becoming the next domino to fall in the series of outbreaks that we've seen around the world. Just remember this. If you cut your number of contacts in half, then you have cut in half the number of opportunities the virus has to transmit. If everybody were to do that, then there would be a chance of slowing the infection to an extent that you would not be overwhelming the NHS.
You know the national anthem.
The government has announced it's developing plans for more new ventilators to be produced as quickly as possible, and said the NHS will buy up beds in private hospitals to boost capacity. It's insisted its approach is the best way to keep the public safe, and stressed those with a dry cough and a fever should self-isolate.
And Sophie, you've got news of more possible measures the government may introduce.
Well, yes, we've been hearing this evening from scientific advisors to the government. They say the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies has reviewed the latest data and said, as it expected, the epidemic is now progressing to such an extent that it is recommending new measures be brought in. These are described as shielding the vulnerable and household isolation. Now, in terms of shielding the vulnerable, they are people who are elderly and have underlying health conditions. Quite what the shielding looks like, we don't know, but it may well be just reducing that exposure to other people to a minimum. So, for example, having shopping delivered, if you like, but it may involve other things as well about staying at home. Household isolation is all about whole families perhaps being isolated at home, even if only one person is unwell, in order to reduce down infection rates. So we are expecting that the government would follow the recommendations from its scientific advisors. It's said all along that that's what it's doing, and this goes some way towards some of the measures that many scientists are clamouring for and say are necessary to protect the public.
Okay, Sophie, thank you. Sophie Hutchinson then. The UK airline industry, already reeling from mass cancellations due to the coronavirus outbreak, is now having to contend with a travel ban from the United States. The White House has confirmed that the UK, as well as Ireland, will be added to the list of European countries from which travel to America will be suspended. Well, our transport correspondent Tom Burridge is at Heathrow for us tonight. Tom.
Clive, transatlantic routes are both vital and valuable for several airlines who before today already found themselves in a dire position. And tonight, this stark warning from UK airlines to government: step in and help us financially in a more concrete way, or who knows what will be left of our industry when we get out of this mess.
Flights to America are a huge part of British Airways' operation. But the vast majority of transatlantic flights soon won't run, as US travel restrictions will affect us too.
The President has made a decision to suspend all travel to the United Kingdom and Ireland effective midnight, Monday night, Eastern Standard Time.
Norwegian Air, in a more precarious financial position than other airlines, will also be hit hard. Pay cuts and job losses already announced at several airlines, now likely to be even worse.
Thousands of jobs are now going to have to go, simply because the airlines won't be able to fly people to the US, one of the last great markets that was open.
At Glasgow Airport, Jet2's check-in empty this afternoon. The tour operator cancelled all of its flights and holidays to Spain for at least a week.
Well, our wee granddaughter of 7 was distraught this morning, so that's a wee shame, because we were going with my daughter and our 1-year-old grandson, so it was a family holiday, which is now not going to happen.
Jet2 flights which left early this morning were over southern France when they were turned back. Places like Barcelona's Ramblas are empty. With shops, bars and restaurants closed, Jet2 said its customers wouldn't get much of a holiday. It will run return flights from Spain this week to get people home. For Leslie, on holiday in the Canaries beyond that, it's unclear.
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know what to do. I really do. If it was just me on my own, I'd be fine. But like I said, my mum's partially disabled. My stepdad's got a bad heart. And I really don't know. I don't know.
And Brittany Ferries is also suspending some of its routes to parts of France and Spain. Tom Burridge, BBC News.
People across Europe are facing severe restrictions on their daily lives because of the coronavirus outbreak. Our Europe correspondent Adam Fleming joins us from Brussels. Adam, strict measures across Europe, including some border closures. What's the view in Belgium?
Evening, Clive. Well, Belgium is coming to the end of its first day with no cafes, no bars and no restaurants, and only essential shops like supermarkets and pharmacies allowed to open at the weekend. During the day, you could sort of kid yourself that it was almost normal because some things were open, but tonight, wandering through busy, bustling Brussels, it's none of those things anymore. It's frankly quite spooky. And French citizens are about to experience exactly the same thing because all of their non-essential services are going to shut down in about 45 minutes' time. In Spain, as we were hearing, it's even more dramatic. That state of emergency kicking in any minute now, which means people will be stuck in their homes unless they absolutely have to leave the building. And across the continent, travel is going to become more difficult in the next few days and weeks. Several EU countries have gone as far as saying they're going to ban the entry of foreigners and non-nationals to their territory. The latest to do that is Poland, and so the British Foreign Office has now said there is no point any British people trying to get to Poland. And you get the same two questions from everybody. How long is this going to last for? And is it going to work to halt the virus?
Okay, Adam, thank you. Adam Fleming there in Brussels.